Welcome to the Occult Rejects. In this episode, I got the mad scientist Lisa with me, and I also got my other buddy, somebody who's been on quite often in the last few months, my boy JJ Vance, my favorite garbage can dude. And today we are lucky enough to have the man himself, someone I always say I love having on. And he hit me up with this topic, and I was like, yeah, of course, I definitely got to have you on. When I think of smiley face killers, I think of William Ramsey. So why would I not have him on? So we got the man himself. William, what is going on? How are you? And let everybody know who you are before we get going.
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on. It's great to see all you guys, JJ and Lisa as well, and Nick. I've been researching kind of this thing. I kind of stumbled into the research of the smiley face killers back in 2016, put out my first documentary in 2017, and it was pretty well received. I wouldn't say it was highly technically proficient, but there's a lot of information in it. It's 3.5 hours. And I've kind of been following it off and on and just trying to keep tabs. But within the last 2 or 3 weeks, some incredible events have happened. And I think that's why I kind of reached out to you, because I realized the importance of it. And one of the primary things that happened is a week ago. Well, it would be last Friday. So a young man disappeared out of Nashville. His name was Riley Strain. And the whole situation fit. I kind of watched it to see what would happen, but he's still missing. And it fits the total kind of phenomenon of the smiley face killers. Young man out at a bar, kicked out. He's the same age as most of these victims, college age, right? That's the title of my first documentary, was College Age Men. So this is a guy who went to the University of Missouri, but was traveling to Nashville with his frat buddies and got separated, got kicked out of the bar. Only, they said, they just put out yesterday, he only had 1 drink. So was he pre-gaming before he went to the bar, or was he drugged? He was acting very strange. And I mean, there's a lot of video, and then he disappears. So they see him on CCTV. It's just like Dakota James, Zach Marr out of Boston. People are familiar with my work. Those names would be very familiar to them. But so there's been a huge kind of social media effort, and the bar he was in was a bar owned by a country music singer named Luke Bryan, who's very well known. I'm not a country music fan, but I was looking at his social media, and he has like 9 million followers. So this case is maybe different than, that's a picture of him right there. He's a big guy, 6'5", not very heavy. But
you used to play swimming in school too, right? You had a swimming, right?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Definitely looks like a swimmer, yeah.
Yeah, but like, and so he disappears by a river, which is also kind of interesting. And that's a picture of the map where he was last pinged, I think, or seen. That would be last Friday. So that's what, the 8th, I think. March 8th, 2024. So I think that this has gotten a lot of attention on social media. And I did kind of a stream yesterday. I usually don't get, I had 750 people watching me go over this case, which is very unusual for me.
Great.
Just on X. So like, people are really interested in this particular case. I'm not optimistic about the outcome, but it is something I'm watching with great. And it's the standard thing, billboards, there's sonar search, right? So they've got 2 boats in the river. They have police presence. It's being shared on social media. And it's actually international. You'll see from some of these slides, it is curious that the Independent in the UK is following this particular case, which I don't recall that before. So these are like slides you're showing from the Metro Nashville PD. So, and
was that a reference in that last slide? Was that a reference to the drowning case studies and drowning forensics book? Yeah. So that's just a
yes. Yeah. That's somebody. That was a comment.
Yeah. Nice. Comment. Well, it's nice to see that folks are, actively engaging in this conversation about this guy relative to the smiley face killer victim profile. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can pull up the video if you want to show the video of him walking around. Let me see if I can do it on my edge.
I don't know if this is, you have a video besides.
Let me see if I can share this video file.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's see. It's
something that you did mention, I know like it is, in a lot of the past stuff that you have covered and other people have covered. The people, them being college kids or very fit or almost in sports kind of things, seem to be a commonality. Now, there's cases that me and Lisa think are pretty much probably the same thing over by Lady Bird Lake. And like these guys weren't college really age. But when I started looking through their obituaries, because sometimes you'd actually be surprised how personal obituaries can get. Sometimes they'll even mention, oh, it was a member of the Masonic Lodge, blah, blah, blah. You'd be surprised. You know, sometimes you'll see things like that in obituaries. So I do go looking through them. And like, I think 4 out of the 6, I never would have known unless I looked at their obituaries. They were all into some sort of either sports, hiking, something outdoors. They were all fit, rock climbing. And I was like, see, now they weren't the young age, but 4 out of these 6 guys were all into like outdoor and very athletic stuff. Right. I was like, it still almost fits in a way.
It fits the profile. I mean, Gilbertson has done a study, right? Gannon and Gilbertson, the original kind of researchers. This is the surveillance video, one of the surveillance videos of Riley Strain. They edited it for some reason, but he runs into this post and falls down and gets back up and starts walking. He's walking away from, I think, where his hotel was too.
He ran into.
But you can see how tall. I mean, he's a tall, skinny guy. But Gilbertson has done a study, and it showed like the body mass index is like off of the mean. So they run a little. The victims, if you put them all together, or his victims of his data set, runs a little skinnier than the standard American male. So being more fit and athletic would be things. And this is something the police have to do. They have to find these 2 guys, the bicyclist and who's in the car. Is somebody following? Because it just goes back to the first victim. What was it? Andrew McCabe or whatever his name was. He was stalked. Like they caught somebody following him while he was in a state kind of like Riley Strain. Mm-hmm. That was the 1998 case.
Yeah, Andrew McNeil.
McNeil, thank you. Yep. You have a good memory, dude. I wish I had
That's right.
Yeah, so Patrick McNeil, that's his name.
There we go. Yeah, Patrick. There we go. Yeah.
It's there. It's somewhere in the.
No, but you're right. There is probably more cases like that where the data is not available, the police don't look into it, et cetera, where there are people following the stumbling victim down the street.
Right. So that's the predatory aspect of it. Yeah. Like maybe this is their victim set. Like if it's a man, they're heterosexual, right? They're looking for a lone woman, which never really happens anymore. Mm-hmm. Women. Like they know they can be targeted and drugged too in bars and things like that. But the men kind of don't. And this is a huge mishap on his frat so-called brothers, letting him walk out in that state.
Absolutely.
So it's a disgrace.
Is that like from being drunk running into the pole, or is that like from being like BDO'd or something? Like
look at them. See, I don't think he's drunk. He acts like he's drugged to me. Like he's touching his face. He's injured himself or something happened. Like I think he's touching his face or he's bleeding or something. I don't know.
That was even a thing that we came across looking into like stuff with the Austin, Texas. You know, again, I can't say that this is what's being used, but like there was a Jake's Fireworks that was popped at one point in Austin, Texas, and it was a huge producer of BDO. They were selling fireworks, but they were also selling BDO. Like I think that's the right. I could be wrong. I think that's the right 3-letter word, three letters there, but. That was like drug.
The BDO is different in that it
almost breaks down into GHB or something.
But it's harder to detect. It's hard, and then when it metabolizes,
I've never heard of that either. That's interesting.
And the way he's acting and looking like that would be a common side effect from that stuff. And that shit was being bought like crazy and pumped out of. You could look this dude up. I mean, he had like 3 different companies that he was even calling them labs and everything. Like he really wasn't hiding it on his business papers.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's wild.
Is this a legal product in the state of Texas, or is this something like?
Oh no, they got raided.
Yeah, no, it's illegal.
So they were doing it illegally. Wow.
Yeah. I didn't know this was like one of those kind of gas station spice type scenarios where they're kind of navigating the legal, the legal landscape. So, I've never heard of it. That's interesting. That's
the first. I've never heard of BDO. Yeah. I'm gonna have to look it up after the show. I've never heard of that. I don't know.
Yeah,
that's wild.
I'm spoiling a little spoilers.
But anyway, if you want to show this kind of is very similar to the Dakota James case in Pittsburgh. This is a video of a local reporter retracing the steps.
You know how it always starts with playing. Here we go.
New this morning, billboards are now up in Nashville spreading the word about missing college student Riley Strain. This one is located off I-24 near Trinity Lane, alerting drivers about the case. Now, Riley's family remains in Nashville this morning, hopeful to find any clues about where he went after he disappeared from downtown Nashville last Friday night. Blake Easton spent the morning retracing Riley Strain's known steps. He's joining us live now with an update on the case and the search. Blake.
Hey, good morning to you, Nikhil. It is certainly an all-hands-on-deck effort right now. We're talking billboards on the highway, boats in the water behind us, and you can actually hear Metro Police's helicopter actually flying above us right now, scanning alongside the river, trying to find any possible clues to learn what happened to that college.
Look at how placid the river is, right? So it's very calm, and it's all hands on deck, right? So they're telling you they've deployed all police resources, right?
Senior, and as you mentioned this morning, we had a chance to go location by location and retrace the steps that Riley could have possibly walked before he went missing in downtown Nashville. The mysterious disappearance of 22-year-old Riley Strain began on Friday when he was reportedly kicked out of this bar right here. This is Luke Bryan's Broadway bar. It sits at the corner of Broadway and 3rd. Now, the next possible sighting that we saw of Strain was just a few blocks from here on Church Street, which would suggest the most likely route he could have possibly taken was simply walking this way of 3rd Avenue. The next time we would see Riley would be from this surveillance video here at the Smoke and Vape Shop on Church Street. Now, this sits in between 2nd Avenue and 3rd Avenue. If you remember from that video, we would see Riley walk right down this sidewalk, trip over something, get back up before continuing down Church Street, making his way closer to the river. The next time we'd see Riley was crossing the crosswalk here at 1st Avenue from Church Street, walking on to North Gay Street. Now, if you see here, there's certainly a curve that he would have had to pass by, which goes along with what his parents told us was the last time his phone pinged was a few hundred yards north of here on Gay Street at the James Robertson Parkway Bridge. And so, Nikhil, to refresh your memory, this is surveillance video that we saw there on 1st Avenue where he was crossing to Church Street, making his way towards North Gay Street. This was sent out from Metro Police. It was on Friday night around 10 o'clock or so. And that's the last that we have seen of Riley on surveillance video as of now. And so, as you can imagine, it continues to be an all-hands-on-deck effort. I mentioned the boats that we saw here in the Cumberland River. Metro Police's helicopter is still flying above us. But also, this is continuing to stretch miles, wanting to get any information that they possibly can. Coming up here on News 2, we'll introduce you to the company that's responsible for blasting this information across billboards all across the city, free of charge, just to hopefully get some sort of clue as to where Riley could be. Reporting live in Nashville, Blake Easton, News 2.
Wow.
So, I mean, the thing is that so many of these disappearances, the local media really does cover it. So this is one of those incidences. I've got a number of other videos as well, but and I'll put a lot of them into my documentaries too, because they do the work for me and they show kind of things. But one of the interesting things is his, like I said, his cell phone stopped pinging right where he disappeared, which is very suspicious, right?
Oh yeah.
Because if he just dropped his phone, it would have pinged until they found it, right? Or somebody found it, or somebody took it home, or something like that. But it like immediately stopped pinging.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me ask this question, William. Now, given this media coverage, the billboards, the full search party by Nashville PD, have you seen another case, another victim where the search has gone down the same way as far as the media coverage and the full-on force in the search effort?
A lot, yeah. I think Dakota James was like that. I'm thinking, cases come to mind. Zach Marr was disappeared.
Yeah, that was the one out of Boston Garden.
Yeah, Bobby Hurley, Kelleher too. Those guys all came out of Boston Garden.
Yep.
A lot of times, I'm not saying that it's always comes down to this, but sometimes, we have said on the show a few times, that I do think money making might be an aspect of true crime in an extent from people behind the scenes as well. And sometimes I think it's like, well, I mean, are you really going to do that well with a case that isn't popular on TV already? That the news hasn't already made seem like it's already? It's not going to
Sure.
work. Nobody's going to be Googling that or looking for that.
Right.
It has to be some outlandish thing that's pushed and made to seem questionable or weird, especially the last few years.
Right.
No, I think there's certainly an element to
I
that
even
for sure,
wonder if
Nick.
the promoting of it.
Yeah.
It's even like, here's the next psyop or mind fuck. Go get yours.
Yeah, no, there's that element. I mean, true crime is the #1 genre, right?
Yeah.
In podcasting and probably TV. So they're always looking for more content, I would say. I mean,
oh yeah.
So I think that's just an element of it. I mean,
yeah.
William,
Well,
have you looked
go ahead,
into the TC restaurant group? I know I asked you a little bit about it off camera or whatever, off live. They are twin brothers out of Ohio, and they have been in and out of prison.
wow.
DOJ has released statements. They've done tax evasions. Let me pull up something real quick. I kind of put
here's their statement. I didn't know that they had some kind of criminal background. That would be telling. So maybe he got drugged or something. I don't know. But this is the TC rest. This is from yesterday, I think. Yeah, yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you want to read that or I can. But it says, during Riley's visit to Luke's 32 Bridge, our records show he purchased and was served 1 alcoholic drink and 2 waters. At 9:35 p.m., our security team made a decision based on our conduct standards to escort him from the venue through our Broadway exit at the front of our building. He was followed down the stairs with one member of his party. The individual with Riley did not exit and returned upstairs. So, and I think they might be liable. I mean, some people have talked about like what's going to go on if they let somebody that drunk or wasted or drugged out into the evening, you know.
Yeah. So these brothers have invested and it's a trend apparently going on in Tennessee, predominantly Nashville, is that they basically prop up a bar and they have some sort of celebrity back it. And these particular bars, especially Luke Bryan's, but Jason Aldean's, and I believe there's a couple of other ones that have been in and out of the courts because how badly the staff and employees treat the customers and the patrons. And they have paid out lots of suits. I think Jason Aldean in the past few years has paid out about $5.5 million or something to customers because of the aggressiveness. And that one of them claimed that he was detained for several hours just to be beat up while he was handcuffed by some of the employees. And so it's interesting that this kind of pops up because I was wondering the same thing about other cities where this is happening. Because you do see a lot of a monopolization of bars from a select few people.
How similar is Nashville to Austin, right?
Extremely.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. If anything, when people are deciding to move to Austin, they've also considered Nashville to move to as well.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. So, I mean, it is strange. I mean, and a lot of those people in the beverage, and they get tired, they get angry at the customers being too drunk, and sometimes there's a lot more tension there than people might realize.
Yeah.
It's surprising. I did not know that about the TC group or TC restaurant group. I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, that is a bit shocking that they seem like they're involved in some very nefarious activities. But and it's odd too that that's not normal, right? That the bar doesn't normally these SFK victims are last seen at. They don't normally release statements to the public. I mean, I have not seen that.
This is very unusual. These things are this is a different case. The publicity and the involvement of kind of celebrities and the press, international press, keeping tabs and what I've seen online on social media. There's a lot of stuff. So this is very different. So.
And they're passing the blame on to his frat brothers, aren't they? They're saying that it's their fault that they abandoned him or something like that. But I think there was a claim that the actual frat brothers were not allowed to leave or else they couldn't get back in. Like they couldn't leave with him or something like that. They purposefully isolated him is what some of the claims are on the chats.
Wow, that's incredible. That would be the same as Zach Marr, right? So Zach Marr goes out to smoke a cigarette. His whole crew's in there. It's his birthday. This is Bell in Hand Tavern, Boston, Massachusetts.
Yep.
And then the bouncers say, no, you're done. You can't come back in. We're closing up. He's like, what are you talking about? And then he starts texting and then wanders off. Like the whole thing is super suspicious late at night.
You know what I thought was weird, and this could just be, just coincidental. Really, could be nothing. But I saw that like he was 22, and I, 22 and 33 and stuff like that. I always find interesting. But but then it was only 30. What is it? The place that he was at was called 32nd Bridge or something like that.
Mhm.
Yeah. Bridge
So I thought like,
32.
well, it's not 33, but it's still 32. I don't know what made me think about it. I threw the word gay, which is over by where he disappeared from.
Strange.
Sure.
33.
Interesting.
And it's simple. So he went from 32nd to 33rd degree and disappeared.
Disappears. Wow. It's crazy.
It's true.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, and he didn't last that long out on the street. Like they let him out and he was gone within 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he left, I mean, according to like, you'll see it in the slides, but he left the bar. They said 9:35. The local people said 9:40. And then by 10, the last cell ping was 9:58. So 20 minutes, and then he's gone. Vanished.
Just need a 69 in there somewhere for the cancer.
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. So Luke Bryant, there's the thing I just showed.
Have they like looked into the bar at all, really? That he came from?
Not to my knowledge. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I would be interested. This is Luke Bryan, like 9.1 million followers. Like that's the reach of this case. Like that's it. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets sued. So Aldine paid out over $5 million. That's a huge amount of money. That's really crazy.
Have you started checking for GoFundMe's yet?
Yes, he already has one.
He does. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I all do. I hate to say it, but like some of these ones that I think that like take a bit to not show up and seem like real fishy. You've noticed some of them have some questionable GoFundMe's. I think there's somebody we may cover that had a GoFundMe before they disappeared.
Yes.
Wow, 47,000 out of $1,000 goal. That's crazy. Wow.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, even Gilgo Beach. Oh, also needs a GoFundMe from the lady from Happy Face Killers who was actually had been arrested.
The daughter. Yeah.
For financial fraud. Why you guys got a GoFundMe going on, huh?
Does seem suspect.
Super.
That is
super.
wild.
Yeah, I mean, and an easy way to just capitalize, just from a very cynical perspective, capitalize on someone else's problems,
Misery.
and unfortunate unfortunate circumstances or misery. It's also could be just a good way to money launder. On top of, like, let's say there is a cult group network of doing these things. Well, maybe they're going to profit off of their crimes as well by doing fake GoFundMe's for some of the victims.
That's what I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or payment. Like say they got this kid and they procured him for some reason.
That's even darker, Lisa, but that's a good point.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And then they
It's
moved
very
money
possible,
that way and nobody would know.
No, that's
We can watch. I do have the video for the Nashville police update from the 14th. I don't know if you want to go through that, but there's just a lot. People can find this on YouTube and all this stuff if they want to check it out. But it is interesting, and it just fits in the same pattern of all these cases. And what people should be aware of is like a lot of the bodies are put back in water late night or early morning on weekends. So Dakota James was early Monday morning, late Sunday night, and some of these other ones. So I would be, if I was the police, if I was law enforcement, then I would be checking the river late at night. I would have a team out at the river, downriver or whatever, because that's
what I had even wondered. This is like out there though, but like with like this this drugging and stuff, and like I saw somebody mention something here about like an Uber, but I don't think there was an Uber involved. It was a fake Uber driver, the car that took Riley, whatever. There was a cases that we came across in Austin too, where this woman and her daughter were driving around as fake Ubers and trying to dose men and rob them. And like this is like so out there. This is just I'm stoned, and I'm like, well, what if like this Uber Eats person like dosed fucking Idaho 4 house, and that's how you're able to kill all of them so easily?
Right.
There
is drugging.
Thought.
Yeah, they're drugging. I have in my files like an Austin drug team that went out and drugged people and stole $50,000. Like they netted real money, so the incentive is there.
Well, that's what Sharon Jacobs was doing. The one that's talking about is that they went ahead and they drugged them. I guess they gave them water or whatever while they're ride sharing, and then they abduct them and they steal their biometric data and take out their cryptocurrency from their phone.
Holy
Yeah.
smokes,
Yeah.
that's deep.
Well, that's smart, like
Yeah.
super sophisticated.
Yeah.
And I have another case in New York City where they were doing that too. They were targeting rich people and gay people, and then just robbing them blind. And then some of them died. They drugged them, and then some of them died, and then they got caught.
Oh, and before I forget, the TC Group, the TC Restaurant Group out of Nashville, they also have a subsidiary or a sub part of their company that also does Uber Eats of some sort.
This is the person you're talking about, Sharon Jacobs, right?
That's her.
That's her, yeah.
That's her.
And look at she did it back to back to back. The cases, 2
Yep.
on February 11th, 2 on the 12th. Those are the ones she just got caught for, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some of the bars we're looking at were over in that area, especially 6th
Yeah,
Street.
Rainy Street,
Yes.
6th Street, yeah.
And a lot of those that when you start looking at the businesses, they're all connected with. And it's like, it's literally, if you were to think about it, it's like they kind of almost have like a monopoly, or maybe almost like a little mafia going on and controlling all the entertainment in that area.
That would not be shocking. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
it just
surprising.
way too
Mafia.
much people showing up in Lions clubs or the Shriners or the Rotary
Yep.
Club too. It's like, what's going
The
on?
Rotary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's still a Dixie Mafia. There are guys
Yeah,
who
yeah.
run the drugs and run the bars, and those are huge. Like I think you said, money laundering operation, right? But those bars a lot of times are operations. They're great places to stoke up alcohol sales, right? So you can launder all kinds of stuff through the back door, you know. But yeah, this Jacobs person, something else. Yeah, she's just one. This is like we're in kind of the new territory of the new kind of criminality that people haven't seen before. They need to catch up. But there's been other cases in Texas, in the South. This is one of them. Suspicious Asian guy. I forgot what his name was, but that was March 5th. So that's this month. He's found in a ravine, and then there's 3 plus another one. The guy's name is out of
Caleb
out of
Harris.
Corpus Christi. Pardon me,
Caleb Harris.
I have so, but these are other ones out of Corpus Christi, kind of older, but they fit the profile: younger, skinnier. Joe Gutierrez, Jesse Garcia, and Bradley Brooks. I think that's all.
And
2020.
all during the winter months, I see too.
Yeah, there you go.
You know, that's obviously a very common characteristic, as well as in the victimology here in the SFK. Because I think a lot of people, especially whenever I read forums online, still to this day, there's always people trying to write this off as some sort of recreational water death.
Yeah.
And it's not only that never a recreational water death; it's not even during recreational water months. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not even. It shouldn't even be in the conversation,
that.
but it still is.
Yeah, it's a mistake. I mean, they're at night. Like Riley, he's obviously not going swimming.
No,
Riley
no,
Strain isn't going swimming. None of these guys are. It always happens at night.
Yep.
So I think that's very telling.
I think it's purposefully done on the fall and spring semesters because they're targeting college kids. They're not
Mhm.
targeting the summer schoolers. They're targeting the main guys that go
Yep.
to
Right.
fall and spring.
That's a good point.
Good point. Yeah, very good point.
Any of these guys have anything in common with like school or anything? Jobs?
I don't know. It's a good
Engineering,
question.
computer science.
Caleb Harris went to Corpus Christi. He went to Texas Tech, Corpus Christi, or I forgot what-
No, he went to Texas A&M. Texas
Texas
A&M
A&M.
course is Christie, which is a
Gotcha.
subsidiary of College Station. Yeah, but originally from outside of San Antonio.
Gotcha.
Wow.
He fits the profile though. But there was another case too before Riley Strain, a guy by the name, and you'll see it on the slides. Dakota Bingham, the same thing, kind of same looking guy, ended up in the river. Ended up in the Cumberland River.
I mean, but
This
it's
is
like
the
once
guy
again,
right
you
here,
see
the
the law
cocaine.
enforcement standing there by the riverside, time after time. They know they know that's where they're going to find this guy. Like internally within their organization, they obviously know. You can judge that by the actions, the way that looking. At the
Right?
way
Why aren't
act,
they out at like some field and far away? Why are they all
Exactly.
focusing on the river? Good point.
Yep, every time.
Very true. Every time.
This was a peculiar case because the Caleb one is that he came home late and then went to go walk his dog and then called in an Uber Eats or something to bring him lunch for the next day, and disappeared at that point, but the food was left on his front door.
Wow. That's something else.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard of this one. No, that's interesting.
I would be looking at that Uber Eats driver very closely and see where he is. Get the police should subpoena his records through Uber, see where he's been. That's a perfect crime, because the other thing about, like, if you work for some of these ride shares, you can move from city to city.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can still. So if I mean, it might be like the optimal cover for a criminal or serial killer.
Oh, and the other thing with the other 3 kids from Corpus Christi, they were all gonna go fishing the next day, even though their disappearance is not right next to each other. They span over a couple of years. That coincidentally, they were all slated to go fishing the next day.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. It makes me think of Brian Koberger from the Moscow, Idaho, like, he's out late at night just trolling. You know, they had things of him just driving around like he's an insomniac.
You know what?
And there's another SFK case there in Moscow, Idaho, too. His name was Hudson Lindau, who died in a creek, you know, literally 6 months before the event.
Well, that's interesting you bring up Hudson Lindau, William, because in regards to Riley Strain, these are, in Hudson Lindau, they're 2 of the only fraternity members that I can think of that disappeared while out with their fraternity brothers. There are other frat members. There are other frat victims. However, they didn't disappear out with their fraternity brothers.
Good point.
Yeah, I think that could be a important factor.
Because
generally speaking, these fraternities, they operate, very much as a secret society. So they don't let others in. They take care of their internal group and internal disputes. So, and if it's very odd that they would let him wander off like that. If indeed the bar's statement in the Riley Strain cases is accurate, where they're claiming they did not intercede and prevent anyone from going, leaving the bar with him. But I suppose time will tell in that regard. But I think it's odd. There's not very many. Again, Hudson Lindau at the University of Idaho and Riley Strain are the only 2 I'm familiar with that disappeared while in like a fraternity function.
I think his fraternity was Sigma Chi. Is that right? Does that sound right?
For Hudson Lindau?
Yeah.
No,
he was a member. No, he wasn't.
No, for Riley
Riley
Strain.
Strain.
Oh yeah, Delta Chi. Yeah,
Delta Chi.
That's
Thank you.
okay.
Yeah, I don't recall Hudson Lindau's. He was wasn't part of that University of Idaho Sigma Chi group. He was one of the other fraternities, Delta Tau maybe, or something like that.
He was found fairly close to their frat row.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But there's other cases. There was another case. Jim Smith would know this, but there was another frat guy who ended up at the bottom of a lake out after being out with his friends. So at the frat, so-called friends, like sometimes friends.
Oh, really? So there is another instance of a frat guy out from a frat function.
Guy. I can't remember his name offhand, but
okay,
it's just one more case. But frats, there's a lot of hostility and hazing and things like that. Sometimes things go wrong, and they work each other up. It's almost like a Lord of the Flies, where they can kind of see who's the biggest jerk, which is
and quite honestly, that's what I thought may have happened with Hudson Lindau being an underclassman. He may have fallen victim to some sort of hazing and type of environment, but it is a very suspicious death, and one that was never really.
No, they just called it an accidental. It's very easy for the cops to blow that off. That is super suspicious, and it's definitely for me an SFK killing. Though you can just go take a look at the creek he supposedly drowned in. It's like it's nothing. Like
it's inches
trip
of water.
And fall. Yeah, it's a joke.
You know what I still think is a very questionable case, and I don't think maybe people don't think of it as being another body of water victim, because it did include a car. But even Kylie Rodney, I mean, technically she just showed up in a body of water, and like I'm just gonna keep it honest. I don't sugarcoat anything. I think the way that body was found by that YouTube channel is suspect as shit.
That's the one out of like Truckee, right? That's Northern California.
Yeah, that Ventures with Purpose or whatever. I mean, you got one dude in court for like some pedo shit. The other one's got questionable other businesses under his name. It's obviously money-making thing, but and they've been known. The weird thing is that they have been known for I think like over a dozen now possible bodies that they found. Like, have those ever led to a conviction?
Wait a second. The YouTube folks that found the Kylie Rodney, body and car in that Truckee Lake, they found other bodies.
Yes.
Get out of here.
Yes.
That seems suspect. Extremely suspect.
Totally.
And like
Yeah.
none of them are leading to an
Totally.
arrest. I mean, like,
Really?
it's our cleanup crew. Oh yeah, we found, and they're always finding
They're the
it.
Henry Lee
That's
Lucas of
where he at.
YouTube. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. It's the fucking shit. That's what I'm saying. I do think, believe it or not, even when it comes to social media, there's some real. I would almost start to wonder if people who are kind of involved in the crime are even finding their own way to still make money, because you get monetized. People love watching this shit, and you can just
Wow.
make money off of just putting up a few videos.
Yeah.
It's like really fucking bizarre, especially with that case, because there is a lot of social media people who are involved somehow. It's just like so weird. Some chick shows up who was like on her, she admits it too, on her own Facebook and YouTube page. She shows that she's involved with NASA. She was involved with the government.
I remember you saying that.
Like,
Yeah.
and she has a video up saying, like, showing like this is what we do. And it was a video of like running scenarios.
Right.
And it's like she's telling you right now what she's doing, as this girl has somehow become, the authority of what's going on with Kylie Rodney. Xana May was her name, or some weird shit. And it was like nobody questions NASA government agent here. Like, what the fuck?
It is
It was
odd.
just so weird with that case.
And not to get too deterred on an Idaho 4 tangent, but if I'm not mistaken, I believe one of the victims in the Idaho 4, Kaylee Goncalves, was following that case, the Kylie Rodney case, and messaging a YouTuber covering it, and that YouTuber later interviewed her family after, she was victimized in the Idaho 4 murders.
Interesting.
Yeah, I believe the YouTube channel was Chronicles of Olivia. They interviewed real early on after the murders. They interviewed the Gonzalez family.
I've had I heard a few people in the chat already say something, and I think we were kind of like maybe even talking about how this was a possibility, but there's been some people in the chat already saying like they even do question if this was a homosexual thing. And I know, like, you don't want to start like, getting into that or whatever sometimes, but like, especially with like one of them was even transgender, and like there has been questions about, sometimes I do wonder if this is like a, you're not going to be telling everybody unless you're open.
Right. So it adds an extra layer of
secrecy that you're doing yourself.
Crime. Yeah.
Your own secrecy.
Yep. No, I think that's a great point. And I think William captured a lot of that, what I think is very pertinent to that subject in his first Smiley Face Killers documentary, with the kind of the psychosexual aspects of the water torture stuff.
Right. Yeah. I think that's an element. Most people don't want to touch that possibility.
Yeah. I'm not saying we have to harp on it either, but I think that could be an avenue. You never know.
No, I think
so for sure. I think that might be the primary motivation. There may be other copycats or other things going on, other people using the MO, but I think primarily something like that, something secret. And I've looked into a lot of people. There was a Perth guy who, on the face, like his day-to-day life was heterosexual. He had a wife and I think children, but at night he would go out at the bars, stalk the bars, find somebody, drive them, drug them, and rape them. So he was like bisexual, but he had a strange predilection. And so I think that there is an element to all that. I looked into Peter Christopherson too, who did the whole kind of broken thing, 9 Inch Nails, and he was an occultist and very nasty character. But like his video for Broken is the Smiley Face Killers MO. Like it's right. It's all.
I think you're spot on there for sure. Yeah.
One thing I want to ask you guys before I pull up his next slides. I don't know. Just a weird thought when I'm stoned. I don't know if maybe you gentlemen or Lisa have noticed it as well, but something I'm starting to notice, especially with him showing these pictures. When we were covering it, working on these other ones in Austin, again, I was looking at 6 people. I think like 4 or 5 of them. I don't know what it is, but it's like every single one of them somehow has a picture of themselves holding a fucking fish to see online. And when I saw it here again, I was like, oh, usual. I didn't save it because I thought it was just like a weird coincidence and waste of slides and time. But like it just seems to be like an ongoing theme with these people holding fish too.
Yeah. This is the Packery channel, by the way, in Corpus Christi. know that very intimately. But one thing I wanted to point out, which I have yet to hear from anybody in this whole smiley face thing, the collection of sperm from college boys, especially in engineering as well as computer science, is a $4 billion industry. And yet
Wow.
no one has ever mentioned, and they have the body conformation that is ideal for a catalog to be looked at.
That's a great point.
Not that they're, again, but if you, in the whole gamut of things, if you're going to do this, you're going to do this once, get everything.
Absolutely,
Organs, tissue,
Right.
procure it for a person, the stuff. I mean, the whole thing. I mean, I think it's a multi-billion-dollar industry just with one kid that you abduct.
Interesting.
Yeah.
No, I don't think I've ever heard that really discussed before, Lisa. But that is certainly something that's plausible because they're holding these these victims for a period of time. I mean, they certainly could be extracting numerous bodily fluids from them for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can see where that would be very profitable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I looked at that documentary Kink with my first documentary, and that was like these like hardcore BDSM rooms with everybody's video camera coming in all over the world. Like, what if something like that was going on and somebody's paying money, And some people have even speculated. I had a guest 6 or 7 years ago, Dory, but she's like, what if people are flying in? Because like my first case that I studied was Joey LaBute, where it was the Arnold Schwarzenegger classic, right? So everybody's flying in for this bodybuilding, and apparently they're, to my knowledge, I've been told that there's kind of a pretty strong homoerotic undercurrent of these kind of bodybuilding type things. And what if somebody's flying in for a victim from China or from whatever, Japan or Italy or
not only that, within the bodybuilding community, GHB is extremely prevalent. I mean, that is a very commonly used supplement within the bodybuilding community.
Yes. And another thing is like you mentioned these pictures of all these guys, Nick, holding fishes. There's an element of pre-selection in a lot of these cases, it seems to be. And a lot of these guys are on these apps. So Joey LaBute, before he disappeared that night, he's on an app. Dakota James had like an abduction event like 3 or 4 weeks before he really disappeared. And he was all over those apps. So maybe there's like a nefarious actor or actors targeting, like this is our next guy. Let's figure, and maybe that's like it's like a predatory element, like the thrill of the chase, right, or something like that. Like I don't know, but I mean you can analogize, or it's very similar maybe to like this guy who got caught, the Lisk Beach serial killer, the Rex Heuermann, who was a heterosexual, but this guy was a hunter. He had all the elements of a hunter. He put his victims into those burlap bags that hunters put their prey into. Yeah. So like maybe that's an element. Maybe that's just an element of any kind of.
I think, and even with these cities that they are being taken from, they are high tech cities. They're not just run of the mill type cities. So
right. That certainly seems to be the uptick in activity for sure. Like Chicago, Austin, Nashville. These are all very more modern tech-driven cities. Yeah.
And what's interesting, you hadn't heard this in Corpus Christi. I mean, I'm from the area, so you had not heard this before. But what's interesting, and I made a Twitter post about this, is that all of a sudden Elon's going to build a battery factory down here, and it's brought in a bunch of business.
Interesting.
So now you start to have tech kind of moving into the area, and now you have this crime booming.
Wow, that's really disturbing. And you don't know, like, people out there what their tastes are online. Like somebody's like Peter Christopherson or whatever doing like, it can get really dark.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the new case. This is the other. I mean, I don't know if you were ready to get rid of Riley Strain, but this is to me, this is a breakthrough in all of the SFK cases, and it happened in the UK. He was arrested in 2023, and he was sentenced, I think, last week. So it was last Monday, I think it was like the 3rd or something of March. So just in 2024. His name is Fang Ji Wang, in Oxford in the UK, right? Oxford is the kind of the most prestigious university in all of the UK. But he lived there, and they won't mention his real name in the media. I had to go find a Christian voice who would actually say like this is his real name. But it's like this is an incredible case because it fits. I had a title for me analyzing this case, which is all the boxes in the SFK, have been marked by this guy's case. It's really an incredible case. Feng Shi Wang. I can go through here. I don't know if I have. One of you guys, can you guys click through this? I guess I can.
Oh yeah, I can.
Okay.
Sorry.
So this is kind of like they're mentioning. It's hard to find his name. This guy, 4 months before the crime, Feng Shi Wang. He goes by Scarlet Blake. That's his transgender name. He took a cat and did unspeakable things with this cat, and ended up he tortured it while it was like he was a neighbor's cat, and he took it and tortured it, kept its heart, and then threw it in a blender.
Wow.
And it was very much like this Luca Magnotta case, right? If you remember Luca Magnotta, I think it was like he actually made a snuff flick of some Asian guy, but he was a cat torturer. And it's referenced in this case, Don't F with Cats, if you guys remember that documentary where they tracked him down.
Yep.
So this is the kind of serial killer fetishization or like admirer. So that's what this guy was.
He was playing the music in the background, right? He was the music to the Netflix
right. Was
thing
it Love?
as he was doing this. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. Was there any cult ritual aspect to this cat killing, William, or is this more of just a graphic?
I think it was graphic, but the thing is, he was supposedly doing it for his transsexual lover. Yeah, so he was trying to impress his lover doing this cold-blooded thing, and I think he said in the video they say, "I can't wait to do this to a real person."
Really?
Right. Yeah.
It's very dark.
He hung the cat. I think he hung the cat, and then he cut him open while the cat was open. I mean, cat was alive.
Was still alive. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Holy smokes!
Yeah.
This was all presented in the recent trial for this character.
Correct. And I can bring up the sentencing. I can bring up the judge stating the sentence. But this is one of the interesting components I've always kind of surmised is that there's some kind of international element going on. These guys communicating through the internet, and this is the case. So he had come to the U.S., I think, to either Austin or Colorado, and was with his lover or something like that, and then he fled after some kind of gun incident. So he was exhibiting very dangerous behavior. But this case came to light because this guy got a man who became a woman, transgender person, Ashlyn Bell, told the police that he committed the crime. So the police were under the belief that there was an accidental drowning of Jorge Carreño in Oxford. And so it fits the SFK thing to a T because the police are confused and mystified and actually had a inappropriate conclusion, right? So they thought that it was an accidental drowning. And it's just incredible. So the guy rats him out, but this is like an international component to it. Feng Shi Wang. I don't know who this Ashlyn Bell, what his real given, birth certificate name is, but he's in Austin somewhere. You actually can go. I looked him up on a simple search, and he's on some kind of transgender
escort
site. Yeah, and I think I have a thing of this. So this is the person who committed the crime. They only got him for one crime, Jorge Carreño. I don't know what else he's doing, but he's definitely involved in BDSM. You can see him at one of these underground bars, and it's called Goth Industrial BDSM. Yep. But this is an important aspect of this case. It hasn't kind of made its way to the U.S., but J.K. Rowling, the famous author of the Harry Potter series, probably one of the most popular book series ever written and movie series ever made, is saying, I'm so sick of this S. This is not a woman. These are not our not our crimes. And she's right, because this is not a woman. And they kept saying it was a woman on the UK media. This is a transgender man to female, and who's been on puberty blockers and has, I think he has breasts, but still has his genitals.
Interesting. Well, there's that industrial rock element too, right, William? You identified that in your documentary.
Yeah. So
So that's showing
this guy checks all the boxes, and it's
Yeah.
like I've always surmised that there's been a woman involved to kind of get the to assuage men's concerns, and this guy might have been dressed up. We don't know, but he might have been dressed up to look like a woman with lipstick and makeup. That would be even more scary because he was wearing a mask at the time. Yeah, we have video. I have video of that. You're
getting catfished before you even get killed.
Right.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So wait, so even though this individual in Colorado or Austin, this other transgendered individual, they were the number one witness against their former
What
lover,
happened was they were in a relationship, an international relationship. This person, Fong Shi Wong, aka Scarlet Blake, flew to Austin, and he told this other person in the U.S., Ashlyn Bell, that he actually was the one who committed the crime. And the one in the U.S. never said anything. Then they had some kind of row and a breakup, and the guy from the U.S. called the U.K. authorities and said, "Hey, I think I have evidence that would show that this is the person who committed the crime."
That's interesting. Did he actually testify in the trial? The American.
They used evidence from him, yes.
But we don't know his actual legal name still, though, right?
Not in the public, no.
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. And it is interesting because the authorities in the UK kept using this guy's fake transgender name, Scarlet Blake. There's only mentioned in 2 places, Fang Shi Wong. That's only place, like one Christian guy, and then one place. All the other journalists were cowed. And that means everything in the UK, the Guardian, right? I mean, all these Financial Times, all these other big journalistic enterprises just refused to actually look into it. It's incredible. This is from his social media. This is Scarlet Blake's social media. And these are the people that he admired. And I actually covered Lindsay Suvarnarath, the Nazi Asian, in my last chapter of Global Death Cult. So there's weird ties and overlap to this. And so this is his thing. And some of these names people will know: Jodi Arias, Casey Anthony, and some of these are from the UK as well. But this is his social media. It's very disturbing.
It almost looks like he wants to.
Crazy. Sorry. I don't know if any of you know who that. What's the one on the bottom left? What's her name again? So I can't read it for some reason. What's the thing?
Let me see.
Isabella
I have the original. Isabel Janke.
Wasn't she like? Didn't she turn out like from like 4chan, and she was like some like fucking sick, twisted chick? I saw some special
incest with their 80-year-old demented mother, like something.
Oh wow!
Yeah, no, like some weird shit, and like she was like, I think like whatever, like rubbing shit on herself or some crazy crap. She was like demented.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, she was. I was like, what the fuck? Yeah, so these are some twisted people.
Yeah, no, this guy, Scarlet Blake is a piece of work. He is out of his. I mean, he acknowledges he thinks he's dissociating, and he acted like a cat in court. We'll get to that. Like, it's off the charts. It's really
now the victim here. He's an engineer, right?
Correct. He was Jorge, was from Spain originally. He was 30, and he was in Oxford to work at the BMW plant. And he was out at night with his coworkers. And just like Riley Strain, he gets separated. He can't seem to find his way home. And lo and behold, this transgender serial killer shows up and does him in.
Well, that's another box, though, that got checked, right? I mean, it's overwhelmingly the victims are the STEM, the science, math, and engineering.
Yeah. And apparently he hits him over the head as well to kind of stun him. And you see a lot of these cases with the autopsy that there's blunt force trauma to the head.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, that was Patrick McNeil. Somebody hit him with a hammer. And it took that took the involvement of a third-party medical examiner to figure out, right? And that's the same thing that happened with Dakota James. It was the same guy. It was what was his name? I can't remember his name offhand. But like they
Cyril
found
Wecht?
Cyril Wecht, thanks.
Yep.
But they found like a garret around Dakota James' neck. They found the remnants of it. And his body was almost in perfect condition, supposedly missing for 40 days in the river.
Absolutely,
I mean, we can get into graphic stuff, but if you're in a water for a longer period of time, the bodies don't do well. This is the guy who found out that Scarlet Blake did it. This is Ashlyn Bell I think is in Austin, according to the most recent, escort site. But look at this. If you look through my book, Global Death Cult, this is the same kind of aesthetics as the ONA and Adam Waffen. And this person, according to this, has a Nazi memorabilia interest, according to one of the articles that I read.
Wow.
But this is like holding the gun out in the forest, black things. But you also see this kind of dissociation element that's the same with Scarlet Blake, where she had this person, this man to female, has this kind of cat motif on her mask, right?
Yep. I see that.
And if you see the full picture, you'll see on this guy's thighs, like you'll see the bruised my esophagus. They were into choking each other out.
Wow.
That was one of their things. Like they would choke each other into unconsciousness, like pretty dark stuff. But if you see Ashlyn Bell's picture, you'll see the downward facing pentagram with the goat of Mendes in there. So there's definitely like this Nazi occult thing. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, whenever you're talking Nazis in the occult way, I mean, especially when you're talking, these kind of satanic elements, I mean, my mind always goes to process-related activities.
Yeah, something
and
like
I think
that.
that's one of the brilliant
occult
things you captured in your documentary regarding the industrial rock movement. Like this person is part of, the Scarlet Blake person was into. That theology within, we've discussed it here, the Occult Rejects a number of times, Nick and I have, regarding the process elements permeating throughout that industrial rock. Like, as you brought in some good elements with Christofferson and the Genesis Purish, but it really goes far beyond that within that community. I mean, it is very much kind of the underlying plot line, in my opinion, to that industrial rock scene is that kind of process philosophy. And when you're talking the Nazi Satanism, again, that's right within that same wheelhouse.
Yeah, no, I think you're right.
I don't mean to get graphic, but I believe in the article that I had read that there was no sexual activity between Blake and the victim, but that he was wearing a jacket that when he killed the person, that jacket was mailed to Ashlyn, and then Ashlyn, there was evidence of semen on that jacket from Ashlyn.
According to the judge, it was all over it. So you're into kind of occult charging of items, right? That's what Crowley would do.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's in the decision by the judge. Let me see if I can find it.
So Ashlyn is somewhat implicated because it seems like she actually, from the court documents, it seems, according to Blake, that Ashlyn kind of groomed her to kind of do this, or asked to do it, or said that it would turn her on, and then she mails her the jacket, and then there's the evidence of the arousal.
Wow.
Sadly,
I'm glad you said that. Like this, to my knowledge, this person, Ashlyn Bell, has not been under a police investigation. But this is I will read from the sentencing statement made by Judge Chamberlain. This is sentencing Monday, February 26th. I guess it was longer than I thought. He says, on 2:30 the morning of 25th of July, 2021, you took a picture of yourself wearing a combat jacket. You accepted in evidence the aim was to look dark and menacing, a look that Ashlyn Bell would appreciate. You sent the photograph to her. I'm sure that when you left your home sometime after 3 o'clock that morning, wearing the combat jacket with a hood up, a mask, and a backpack with a bottle of vodka in it, you were intending to look for a victim to kill. You later sent Ashlyn Bell the combat jacket you had worn on the night you murdered Jorge, having told her of its significance. When it was recovered, it had Ashlyn Bell's semen all over it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's black magic charging items, right?
Could be something going on. Yeah, I would think something possibly like a cult or some sort of energy manipulation be possibly going on there.
Do you want to read do you want to listen to the judge's sentencing? Because it is kind of interesting the way.
Yeah, do you have that?
It's the video. It's not the Riley Blake. Let me read that. It's the other one. If you can bring that video up.
This one?
Yeah. You got sentenced life.
Jorge was taken from his friends and family because you, Scarlet Blake, killed him. You did so by the River Cherwell at Parson's Pleasure at about 5:15 in the morning of the 25th of July, 2021. It is not possible to say exactly how. Most likely, you hit him on the back of his head from behind with a vodka bottle or something else you had brought with you in your backpack, then strangled him by applying pressure to the blood vessels just beneath his jawline, using your hands or a broad ligature, then put him in the river where he drowned. You may have held him...
Right, see how important that is? He put him in the river where he drowned, so he did drown, but he was put in to drown, right? So the police thought he drowned. It's very
Your decision
important
to kill Jorge was not a reaction to something he had said or done. It was not a momentary mistake. It was not a decision made in anger or because your emotions overcame you. It was the culmination of a plan you had been considering and formulating for months. Yours. In March 2021, as a present for Ashlyn, you decided to carry out, film and live stream a grotesque act of cruelty towards a cat. You planned to lure and trap this cat. You purchased a cat carrier and cat food and used them for that purpose. You set up lights and a camera on a tripod to record what you were doing. You suspended the cat by its neck using a ligature made from ribbon. But although you strangled it, you made sure that it remained alive for at least 3 minutes, during which it endured intense pain while you cut open and eviscerated it before stabbing, dissecting and removing its heart, which you kept as a memento. As the audio makes clear, the thing you enjoyed most was seeing the animal gasping and panicking before it died. After you had killed the cat, you put a scalpel into its eyes, skinned it and decapitated it. You disposed of the body by putting it into a blender. In your evidence, you told the jury that you did all this to please Ashlyn Bell and derived no pleasure from it yourself. Apparently seriously, you invited the jury to believe that you disapprove of people who are cruel to animals. The audio we all heard and the stills and video clips we saw of you smiling and laughing while posing with the animal's severed head leave no doubt whatsoever that you personally enjoyed what you were doing, as well as the pleasure that you returned to the scene in the days after Jorge's body had been found to take photographs of the memorial left by his grieving family and the tree next to which you had killed him. You did so in order to burnish your credentials as a killer with Ashlyn Bell.
Note to police when they find the body of Riley Strain, somebody who did it might go back to the scene of the crime, right?
Jorge. She took a photograph of you next to the same tree. This photograph was another memento of the murder you had committed. It reflected the pleasure you derived from your status as a murderer. The taking of these photographs and the use to which you put them showed a profound contempt for the suffering you had inflicted on Jorge's family. You were completely indifferent to this suffering. There was another indication of that contempt, though it does not affect my decision about the minimum term. This was the suggestion, pursued on your behalf and no doubt on your instructions, that Jorge might have committed suicide. The suggestion was bound to be profoundly distressing to Jorge's family and friends. If there had been any truth to it, they might well ask themselves whether there was anything they could have done to save him. There was no truth to it whatsoever. All the evidence showed Jorge to be happy and looking forward to the future. There was no way his family or friends could have known what you had planned for him, and nothing they could have done to save him from you. For the murder of Jorge Martin Carreño, I sentence you to imprisonment for life. The minimum term will be 24 years, less the 196 days spent in custody awaiting trial. The minimum term will therefore be 23 years and 169 days. There will be concurrent terms of 4 months for causing unnecessary suffering to a protected animal and 2 months for criminal damage. The statutory surcharge applies.
Oh, William, you're muted.
Talking to myself, sorry.
Yeah, it's all right.
Let me bring up the other video too of
Yeah.
this guy stalking his prey. This guy, Scarlet Blake, aka Hugh Shang Wong, or what I don't know, Fang Ji Wong, whatever. So this is Scarlet.
That video was pretty wild.
Yeah, pretty wild.
I mean, that's some pretty. The FBI certainly seems out to lunch relative to any interactions with this Ashwin Bell character. I'm assuming they should have been the ones responsible for any sort of jurisdiction in the matter. And
great point. Weren't they on it right away once they arrested this guy in 2023?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
That's what I was
thinking. They said he was in jail. He was in jail for 198 days. The judge just said that. So what's going on our side of the pond, so to speak? Yeah. So there's Carreño. Random crime, right? That's another SFK trait. Just a random, perfect crime. It's mentioned in the slides too. He knew it was a perfect crime. This guy, Fang Shi Wong. Weird too, because he turns around and there was a case that I can't remember out of Bristol where they have a film of the guy and he's wandering back and forth like this, like he had been drugged. So I'm not saying this guy was drugged, but it's kind of strange. Like sometimes, like when you, I don't know, depends. I don't know. It just seems odd that like, hey Dana, oh, there's Dana coming. It just seems odd, like he didn't snap out of it. Like sometimes you sober up, right? Like it's 4 in the morning. This is just right after COVID kind of lockdowns were lifted, right? And so he's walking around with a mask. That's why they couldn't identify him or had trouble identifying him. And this is for people who are on audio. This is just video of this guy, Scarlet Blake, walking around. Let me see if I can get this up here. But they meet in this nice courtyard in kind of downtown of the Oxford University. Carreño's like sitting up against something, and then they walk off together. So there's Scarlet like looking for people. He's just walking around by himself. It's crazy. But like they had a picture of this guy, and you'll show it. I mean, could you mistake this guy for a woman? Maybe. I don't know.
I don't think so.
But he looks like a man. Let me show you the other one because it's interesting in that it really shows them analyzing this guy and where he ended up. Can you play that for me, Nick, please?
Yes.
But this, I think, was for the court.
One day I want to learn how to do this to a person.
Did you hear that? One day I want to learn how to do this to a person. That's what he says. But he has a kind of a strange kind of accent. It's not a pure UK accent, too. It's weird.
Well, one day I want to learn how to do this to a person. Well, one day I want to learn how to do this to a person.
So this is like a map. Like I use this kind of mapping too in my first documentary. So it says Thames Police. What does it say there? Let me go back. Thames Police digitally reconstructed Scarlett Blake's movements on the night she, still using she, it's a he, murdered Jorge Martin Carreño. And this, it shows you the beauty of Oxford, right? These are the old, you know, what do they call it? Atriums or whatever, like almost like castle-like structures, but it's right in the center of Oxford where all this went down. But you can see where the CCTV is picking up Scarlett Blake walking through here, and then he finds Carreño. So you can see the location of Jorge Martin Carreño and the location of Scarlett Blake. Like he's looking down some pathway and notices him, right? So they caught that on video. And then they're walking together. So he sees Scarlett Blake walk up to Jorge. This is you can see the timestamp too, right? So that's 4 morning, 4:15. It says here, Scarlett Blake walks up to Jorge Martin Carreño, who was still sitting on the floor at All Souls College. So it's right there in the center of Oxford. Scarlett Blake and Jorge Martin Carreño walk in the direction of Broad Street. So they're walking north. Somehow Blake convinces him to go off of the CCTV. Scarlett Blake and Jorge Martin Carreño continue on Cattle Street in the direction of Broad Street. So they're moving towards this. What does it say? Scarlett Blake and Jorge Martin Carreño, 4:30 in the morning, walk together along South Parks Road in the direction of Marston Cycle Path. So that's 4:30, right? And then I think there's something where, like, it shows like his cell phone stops pinging in 5 or something. So they're off of somewhere. Yeah. So then final location of mobile phone, data from the mobile phone. So the mobile phone stops sending data 40 minutes later, right? So what happened between the time they were walking to this destination and then the phone stopped pinging, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then, get this.
That seems like a vital moment. Something went on there. Looks like maybe in that park area, right? Like that may have been the. Yeah.
They'll show the death scene. This is the so-called body of water where Jorge Carreño drowned, right? So they're showing it. Found deceased at 12:15 noon. Very strange. But this is in depth recorded by ROV 1 meters at this location, right? So it's only 1 meter. He could have stood up. But this is a really great visual because it shows you like you can see it firsthand. This is a pond. It's not even moving water. So then there's a bottle lid. So they're surmising that he hit him with the bottle. But you can listen to this.
They could do that. So what we've got here
it says here Blake was
healthcare
arrested 2 years later.
So basically a nurse at custody. If you're, for instance, you need nicotine, then I think they've got those. Do they not? Oh, maybe they don't.
Nice, but they used to, but I think they stopped. Double check. Like for some reason, I'm saying they stopped.
Yeah, I'm probably just out of date with my information.
It's not that well. I mean, most vape nowadays, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, I think. It's a little percentage of nicotine, isn't it?
It's not too bad. I've been quarantined for a while, which is annoying, but I don't know, it's, because like being arrested and also withdrawals.
Yeah, it's not a great concoction.
He says being arrested and withdrawals, so he's a nicotine addict or something. And you can see he has breasts, right? You can just see right there. I don't know if they're real or what happens. Like he took estrogen.
Stuff the bra.
If you heard that, he says at least it's not genocide. So it's almost like a tacit acknowledgement something went down, right? Let's not again.
Yeah.
At least it's not genocide.
What a weird defense.
One
Yeah,
thing
now-
that stuck out to me when he says, I want to learn how to do this to a person, that it to me indicates he learned to do that to a cat.
Sure.
So he learned that from somewhere. And then if he takes this kid off of the CCTV angle, he knows what he's doing. And did he go into the park, specifically in an area where you get bad cell service, and was being directed because he's live streaming it? Go ahead.
Do you think he's live streaming it up until when he gets out of the CCTV thing that he live streamed it? That he potentially could have live streamed?
I think so.
Wow.
That's my opinion. That's 100% my opinion.
Sure.
But again, how does, if he's saying he wants to learn how to do this to a person, how long did it take? How long did it take for him to learn the path of the CCTV? How long did it take for him to go to a location where he knew that he could get away with it? How long would it take? Because you can't just hit somebody over the back of the head and think it works. You have to have practice with that. There is some sort of methodology to this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I've never done it before, but I'm just saying, I mean, you can't.
But I never thought of that. That could be a possible. Here's the thing, too, Lisa. He had different personas and he was online all the time. That's how he met Ashlyn Bell.
Correct.
They came out of the transgender.
I think,
community.
and even if you look at Ashlyn Bell's picture, it looks computer generated. That does not look like a real face. I don't care how much makeup you try to put on or a filter. There's no person that has a chin that small and eyes that symmetrical. It's not. And I wonder how much of it is being computer generated or propped up to get these people to commit these murders. That's my opinion.
That's a good point.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions. It's dark. It gets really dark.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what if Ashlyn Bell is a fed or fake or something? And
That's
it's like,
that's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there an actual person that is Ashlyn Bell, or does this person exist digitally?
Well, if you go to these slides that I have, there's a lot of pictures that she put up, Ashlyn Bell put up. But I mean, we can kind of go through. It says there are other sides. Well, you can get to it. I mean, it's just like he's talking about he wants to kill his parents. They're talking about they believe they're aliens.
He believed that they're in a Truman Show, which almost indicates that he doesn't believe these people are dying.
Conditioning, right? It's all like, and even the judge said you felt no empathy or pity, right?
And he also said a phrase, which we've all talked about. He talked about false memories.
Right. No, the psychology of this is really shocking.
He was using psychology vernacular that only psychologists use. A person of that age does not use that vernacular.
That's a good point.
No, it's a great point. They're psychologically astute. He used the word disassociation. But this is how bad some of the reporting got, right? So you saw the police recreation of the movement of Blake and Carreño together to this little pond, right? Look at what the Oxford Mail wrote. They literally have a sign that says "Warning: Deep water." That's not deep. 1 meter is not deep. What happened during Jorge's final 30 minutes? And if you can show this whole, people probably can't read it, but the subtext says, "Family of drowned man hoping mystery quote friend unquote can tell them how he ended up in Cherwell and injured after they were seen together nearby before he plunged into river." So they literally wrote plunged into river.
Wow.
It's a pond.
Yes.
Like, this is so deceptive. It's just a bunch of garbage. And how do they know he's injured? So, yeah. So
and that covers such an opposite end of the spectrum of the presentation we just saw. So who put together all that? That's the most complete CCTV kind of recreation of activity that I've ever seen for a victim.
That's
Yeah,
true.
me too. Good
You know,
point.
they seem to have him from moment to moment. You know, crossing all through town. You know, it's that's quite an interesting perspective they offered.
Right. So I'm thinking that the police had to have known all those movements with this mystery friend to get off of CCTV. They had it in 2021. They never divulged it to the public.
That's what I was wondering. Yeah, that's what exactly
what
I
I
was wondering.
think.
Yeah,
That's what I think happened. And something similar, if you look at the Barking, this is East London. It's the case of Stephen Port, where they had all the CCTV with him and his victims, but they bungled it. And it was the family that looked at the CCTV and said, "Who's this guy with my brother?" And it was Stephen Port, and he was a serial killer. So they may have a serial killer. Like I don't think the police realize how dark this guy, Scarlet Blake Fongji Wong, is. This may not be his only thing. Where else has he traveled to? Where else is he going? I think that the Tavistock clinic that he was attending is in London.
Yeah,
London.
But he attended the youth clinic. What is it? The youth gender clinic, and that's where they gave him all of the puberty blockers.
Right, good point. And this is kind of interesting. So J.K. Rowling is just on fire on social media recently. This is just March 12th, 2024, talking about this case and gender dysphoria treatment and all that stuff. And she's holding the line, man. She's tough. She's not back down to some of these trans activist types who says they are women. They're not women. There's no way.
Right.
This guy's doing biological male stuff too. This Fongji Wong. There's no question about it in my mind. But this is, I mean, they actually kind of did some like self-analysis. Scarlet Blake case shows we need a serious conversation about truth. The murder exposes the contradictions underlying gender self-identification. This is also kind of shoddy journalism because he assumes that Carreño got hit with a vodka bottle when the judge himself says most likely you hit him with a vodka bottle.
That's I was just going to ask you that because I read that. I was like, "What did they even confirm?" It sounded like from the judge.
Because Scarlet Blake isn't talking; he's non-cooperative. But he had a kill kit, and you saw on his social media what I go out with, right? He had a picture of the rope, the duct tape, pistol, something else. So I think he had a kill kit. Yeah. It's so crazy. This case is just unbelievable. And then there's other transgender issues, violent transgender people in the UK. Like they're so crazy. They're putting these men, biological men, in with women. Yeah. And there's like rape, like died. It's just off the charts. And they just cannot come to like a truthful conclusion about some of this stuff. Yeah. And that's an important slide, Nick, if you can go back there, because it says the Gender Identity Development Service, kids at Tavistock in London. So he's definitely traveled from Oxford to London for treatment, given puberty blockers at 17, cross-sex hormones. And they say these W-Path documents, they say if a man gets too much estrogen, it gets really dark. Like they are in pain during the sexual act because they don't have testosterone. They have estrogen flowing through their body. So when I first came across this case a week ago, I titled the title of my investigation, Transitioned to Kill, like a play on Program to Kill, because this transitioning process may drive these people aggro or a kind of a different mental state. And you got to read the case on this guy. Dissociation and all this stuff. It's super crazy. But just the affiliation with the Tavistock Institute is crazy enough.
It says something there on the article about 17, and that is the ideal. That's what they indicate, the ideal time. If you were going to do surgery, they indicate that it has to be at 17, or at least wait till you're 17, and give puberty blockers at 17. And then with these puberty blockers or giving too much estrogen, you end up with huge hepatic adenomas. So that's another.
What's the layman's term for that?
I'm sorry, liver cancer growths. Yeah, most of them are benign, but if you let them go too long, they could become metastatic.
Wow.
Yeah. So
But when you're dealing with the Tavistock and any kind of these psychiatrists, when you're making a reference to program to kill, to transition to kill William, I mean, I think that's there's certainly an argument to be made that's grounds for further research, because this certainly seems to have the hallmarks of previous mind control, killing, serial killing or cult killing type of circumstances, for sure.
Yeah,
I mean,
no question.
It's unavoidable when you're talking about those subjects.
What if they know? That's what gets scary. What if they know what they're doing? Like, I think that back in the 60s and 70s, the Operation Chaos and all these guys in the MK Ultra program knew that giving methamphetamines to people drove them batshit crazy,
Sure.
and made them kill. And so that's why, like, the Manson family always had meth around, always had speed. Like, it's intentional. So what if these psychiatrists know the consequences of their action to this guy, that they are creating somebody who's very angry and maybe not even doesn't feel like a man or a woman. Maybe, like they said, he feels like an alien. Like, they're aliens. Like, whoa, you're just out. You are dissociated. You're not having, you're having thoughts that are, typified as something in the psych literature or something. I mean, I think that those are important. And the other thing is, like, when they do such a shoddy job on this journalism, is it negligence or is it intentional? Are they intentionally covering deep water? You could drive out to Oxford and go to the site where this guy was found, and even just somebody who has poor sight could tell that it's a pond. It's not plunging into a river. Like, why those terms? Why careful deep water? And that's so similar through so many of these smiley face killings. Is like the either deliberate or negligent reporting. It's trash.
Yeah. Yep. I lean towards deliberate, because I mean, they have the authorities have the capabilities, obviously, of piecing together the entire night of where the assailant met the victim and where both parties originated from. They clearly have the ability, within the media over there, to accurately, describe these details, because the details have been provided to them from the authorities, and if they're trying to confuse the situation by putting that dark or the deep water on the cover of that publication, I think it's hard for me to describe that as being anything other than intentional.
Me too. It's very strange. It's very strange.
It'd be different if they didn't have the information available or something, because like a lot of cases here, as I'm sure you've seen, William, there's a sparse details available for some of these cases here, especially in America. With some of these victims, the authorities are very tight-lipped. The media don't want to ask the authorities any questions, right, wrong, or indifferent, and that as a result of that, it's a tough environment to find any facts in some of these cases.
So true, so true. And I mean, the thing is that it would be so helpful to get conclusory understandings of these cases if we knew the autopsies and things like that. Yeah. Like, the families have to fight tooth and nail, and in this circumstance. Yeah. You can read, and I have it highlighted in some of these articles, is like the police have the knowledge that Carreño is with some stranger for a significant period of time, but the family doesn't know. So they think that their loved one either committed suicide, they're led to believe that, or they're just mystified, but the police aren't telling them either. So it's some kind of
2 years, huh?
Yeah. And you can read in these articles that, so here it is. Face distressing suggestion of suicide. So that's what his family had to go through. And that's very similar to these other murders, is the family's mystified. They're all like, what really happened? This isn't out of the ordinary. This is weird. So you just see the boxes being checked in this case. It's off the charts. And so this was the guy, the Justice Chamberlain we just saw. So there's Ashlyn Bell, herself a Nazi memorabilia fan. So we're in the Order of Nine Angles, occultism, Lindsay Suvanaroth kind of territory.
Yeah.
Here we go, my little friend. Oh boy, you smell like S. I can't wait to put through the blender. And then it says, well, I wonder where I learned to do this to a person. So you're right. Like, he's learning to do it.
Yeah.
And then this is an important part of the judicial statement, right? Which is the judge right there, Chamberlain, says, you attributed your morbid interest to a split or dissociative personality. using the language of psychiatry or psychoanalysis. You adopted the persona of a cat. You talked about difficulties you had since transitioning in childhood to live as a woman and about your troubled relationship with your parents. I bet his parents weren't happy to find out he was plotting to kill him.
Wasn't
Sounds like a deeply troubled person.
Wasn't that youth gender clinic in Tavistock also known for treating people who identified as a different species, a different ethnicity, and a different, what was the other one? A different age.
Yeah, I think that they were taking him, and it goes through, and I show these WPATH documents, is that they don't care. They just kept going through, even though these people had mental problems, they still went through with the transition.
Yes.
So what if this guy already had mental problems, and then that mental problems is why he thinks he wants to transition?
Exactly.
And these WPATH documents are really incredible on so many different forms, but like they're deliberately holding information back from the people. They're irredeemably going to change their physical anatomy. I mean, I don't even want to show the pictures of these transitions, especially female to male, where they like fashion us, like it's brutal. It's savage. It's freaking savage.
My wife, she's in medical billing, and sometimes they just have to go to like certain things just to keep up with codes, or sometimes they'll actually like show you kind of like, I guess, how the procedure is supposed to be done or whatever. And like one of the last things she had to go to was part of it was showing a man transitioning into a woman. And like she said, like the amount of stuff that has to be done, she cannot imagine how long that surgery even takes. Like she even said like she has an idea of like, somewhat of biology and surgery, but like she was like, I had no idea so much of this it's unreal.
But if you take puberty blockers, doesn't that regress growth, and you actually need the amount of tissue on that person to invert it?
I don't know.
That's a good question.
I don't know the details. I don't know.
Sorry.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
Random. Sorry.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, that's part of this thing, but like he's meowing in court, like he's meowing to people. Like this guy is bent. Like,
yeah, the trans species thing, that's sure. I mean, if there's anything indicative of a mental health issue, that should be at the top of the list, the trans species.
Absolutely.
And that's what I'm getting at with the dark nature of these psychiatrists. If they're identifying that, and they're like you said, they're still continuing to push these people down this gender dysphoria process and transition process. Yeah, I mean, to me that has some dark undertones of what's going on here.
Or that's a prerequisite to be that far gone.
Right. Exactly.
Who else is this guy? What I want to know is who else is this guy communicating with online? Is he part of the transgender community under different personas, and communicating with people other than Ashlyn Bell? And who else has he shared this information with?
Absolutely.
Like I would just be on this if I was a cop or like the federal authorities. Right. This is the guy who's like unlocks the key to the whole SFK network.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable. That's the whole Ashlyn Bell thing. Like, why aren't you investigating this guy? Maybe they are, but like, I would think that birds of a feather are doing in dark corners of the internet sharing information, because that's what happened between these two, and it shows the international element that people have deduced or concluded for the smiley face killing crimes.
Yeah,
it's off the chart
for sure.
You go to the next slide.
To me, it also tells the story of how these crimes can go undetected unless somebody actually breaks the silence and the secrecy of the matter and turns the assailant into the police. Right.
So I think this is what you're saying, Liza. March 2021, as a present for Ashlyn, you decided to carry out, film, and live stream a grotesque act. So what if he live streamed the killing of Carreño somewhere?
Yeah.
Wow, that would make sense. That would be totally like the modern internet crime or something, like to show off to his other transgender people. That was Truth Faith by New Order was what the music he was playing.
I'll have to look into that, Bane. I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, that is so crazy. So this is the one about the jacket and kind of the guy's doing it. Weird charging or something. Can you go to the
that's bizarre. So is that a ritual thing? I mean, it certainly sounds like it's something could be within the Lima and the Crowley type activity, because I mean the whole sex magic type of business, but
Yeah, you like charge items, right?
yeah.
Well, I even thought the
And-
name was interesting. I mean, you have William Blake Lodge, you have Scarlet Woman Lodge. That's both OTO type stuff.
Oh, really interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Scarlet
Yeah,
Blake.
because I mean, obviously, this person chose that name for a reason, right?
Right.
Yeah, there's got to be
Well,
something.
Scarlet
behind that.
Woman, Scarlet Blake. Maybe he thinks
Yeah.
he's the Scarlet Woman. Who knows? You went into Central Oxford where you knew you would find people who were vulnerable after drinking. So, like, he's clearly a predator. This is total 09A type stuff. You walked around the center of town looking for someone suitable. That's what the op first process is, right? Finding a suitable victim. You found Jorge sitting in the ground near Radcliffe camera. Yeah, so he showed no remorse. Profound contempt for the suffering you had inflicted on Jorge's family. You were completely indifferent to the suffering. There was another indication of that contempt, though it does not affect my decision about the minimum thing. This was a suggestion pursued on your behalf, and no doubt on your instructions that Jorge might have committed suicide.
Wow.
So he was the one who placed this suggestion. This is his
I see the
international lover with the Baphomet downward facing pentagram.
Wow.
But you're right, the chin isn't real. It's either sculpted or something, right?
The eyes are very symmetrical. They're deep set.
Yeah.
It's a very baby face looking. And then I believe on other pictures, I guess she's wearing a wig. He or she is wearing a wig because she's always having to clip it. And usually you do that when you wear a wig.
And then it's a pentagram pendant too.
And that's a cat. That's a cat hat, by the way.
I see
Right,
that, yeah.
good point. Yeah, so she's a cat too. These people are dissociated, man. They're not. They think they're different things. It's weird. So, yeah.
Is that like, it almost looks like is that supposed to be like a squid or an octopus with a patch over its eye?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I thought that maybe it was a skull.
It
but
looks
now I
like
see
a
the octopus,
skull,
yeah.
but
Could definitely be an octopus.
No, the skull would probably make sense.
Interesting. This is an interesting character, and we're sure this is not AI, right? Like, because I mean,
I don't know. I mean,
big eyes,
definitely
small mouth.
think filtered at least.
yeah, I agree.
You think it's filtered? Yeah, it's got that kind of cloudy element to it.
But the chin, again, and I'm not saying that nobody has that chin. I'm just saying that.
It does look funky.
But the hat is nose down, call it a night. Like, what does that mean? We're done flying and we're just gonna wrap it up or something? I don't know. There's the pentagram again.
Yeah. Is that bells on a collar like a cat?
Oh shit.
Good
Bells.
catch.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Good catch.
Dude, this is great. And then the kind of camos, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what this is. But also kind of like the camouflage or the multiple identities, the different looks this person has, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they change blonde hair,
Aren't those symbols on the collar? That's a
don't know,
sun
yeah.
sigil, and then the other one on the other side is like a moon or something.
Even it looks like it has that triple cross.
Yeah, it looks the triple cross with a half.
I see that. Yeah.
The
With
rain.
a half moon. Yeah.
Interesting.
And this is where Ashlyn Bell is. Austin, Texas. You guys want to give him a call?
You were saying
I
this.
looked. I did try to do a back trace on the phone number, and it didn't come up with anything. But what it did generate was a phone number to a 956 area code, which is South Texas, and then a California number area code.
It's just so weird to me that no one identified this person's actual name, and they used this trans person's name in the court documents over in the UK. Like, I'm having a hard time getting past that.
Yeah, me too. Like, it's unbelievable. They never found out this other person's name.
Yeah.
Like, they found out Scarlet. They still use Scarlet Blake, but they never found out Ashlyn Bell's real name. They are attorneys. That's their job.
Yeah, it's
like,
tough.
I
for me
would
to
say,
get
what's
past.
your legal name? You know?
Exactly.
This person was the, like, I guess it would be their Department of Homeland Security head, but she's commenting on this whole case as well. So it's just interesting. It's like it's all over the news in the UK, but not in the US. This is
I do
so
find
this
it, though,
this is the book about the Tavistock Gender Service for Children. Yeah.
I do find it really just bizarre how, like, I mean, is it really because, like, you're so afraid? Like, are you going to get canceled over? I mean, maybe, I don't know, but, like, I just find it weird that they do actually refer to that person as a chick in every news article. She, her. It's so I find that so weird.
Yeah, no, I do too. I think that at least I think more accurate would be a transgender male to female. That would be fine with me. Like,
Or pre-op. Or
pre-op.
pre-op. Yeah.
Something. I think we already saw that one. So these are the WPATH files that just dropped last week. And this is kind of overlaps with this whole story. And it just goes in like victims include a 10-year-old girl, 13-year-old developmentally delayed adolescent, and individuals suffering from schizophrenia and other serious mental illnesses.
Yeah.
They freaking transitioned these people. Injuries include the WPATH, sterilization, loss of sexual function, liver tumors, just like you said, Lisa, and death. Like, they literally killed some people. The WPATH files prove that gender medicine is comprised of unregulated and pseudoscientific experiments on children, adolescents, and vulnerable adults. It will go down as one of the worst medical scandals in history. And then J.K. Rowling said that same thing. She retweeted this.
That's an accurate statement, I think, though, too. I mean, these WPATH folks, they're the ones who set the standard, right, on all the gender transitioning protocols and guidelines.
Yeah.
Yes, in the U.S. for sure.
So yeah, they were the ones who they set the table for all this whole process, right? So, they're the ones dictating everything, profiting from it, and clearly acting in a manner that cannot be considered ethical whatsoever.
No, and you'll see this if Nick kind of moves through, you'll see some of the stuff they said. So this is what it looks like. This was put out by Environmental Progress, is the organization run by Michael Schellenberger, right? He's been San Francisco's one of his books. He's been on Rogan. Nature, Peace, and Freedom for All. But maybe you could pop through a little bit.
No, he said that's a good point from the Memento Mori there.
Yeah, that's true.
And he just points out in this thread, which I took screenshots of, this is all from videos internally. We're explaining things to people who haven't even had biology in high school. Like, dude, it's so unethical. They don't understand. What are the diabetic complications? They're a 14-year-old. They think they're going to live forever. This is March 4th, 2024. Maybe you can go to the next one. We can just zip through these. But like, blockers will stunt 10-year-old. Very difficult. They asked to wait till 16. 2 liver masses from the hormones. People as young as 16.
That's
like,
terrible.
what are the consequences? This is crazy. Hepatic adenoma, just like you said. It's so sick. I mean, what they've done to these people. And this guy, Scarlet Blake, could be in my sensibility is that he is a victim of this stuff.
Sure.
That's maybe why he flashed out. Many parents don't understand what will happen to their children. Probably.
I did even think, like, going back and looking at like some of the stuff that recently that I'm looking at with these other cases and just other things that I've seen, like especially going on recently. Someone mentioned it, the school shooter. Some of like these just weird cases that seem off. There almost does seem to be a commonality of like somehow either a victim or the person perpetrating it was transgender.
Yeah.
There's really something I find something like actually really weird with that.
There's been a number of trans shooters. Yeah, I mean the Nashville one. There was a fellow in Chicago, Cremo.
Yeah, and now that even to like knock these people, it's like, could they be known as like willing to like go to an extreme that they like the medical community or whoever's behind it knows that, like somebody was saying MK Ultra, could this actually, like, if you keep taking it and doing it long enough, could actually start snapping your mind, and we want to see what the results are doing, and we're going to find willing participants who are going to do it.
I think you just
I wonder what's up with with the sign. I'm not knocking these people, because I do think a lot of it is even the drugs that they're taking that's going to exacerbate anything else that's going on in their head. So I do wonder, like, again, could this be like, oh, let's see what happens?
Isn't that kind of the underlying purpose of the Tavistock Institute?
Yes, it is.
Whether
Right.
stated or otherwise, I mean, that's kind of what they've done throughout their history, right?
Exactly. Well said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well said. That's what they're doing, is doing
Yeah.
tests and manipulating humanity and then following up on it. That's what they do.
That's
Like, imagine this guy's like
Yeah.
got some freaking intel handler. And I mean, you could look up, there's like a book on William Sargent, Sargant, and all of his tests. Like he was basically like the UK's Ewan Cameron. He was doing all this other weird stuff. And I think he was affiliated with Tavistock. I got to look it back up, but
interesting.
like, he was he was their kind of behavioral modification scientist. But
I know something. Sorry, finish, William.
Nothing.
I know something came up earlier. I might have seen it in the chat. Maybe JJ even made a mention of it too. I don't know. Like, was there anything else that we've covered that might have seemed to be able to tie into process stuff? Because I know somebody mentioned it before, maybe you, JJ. But another thing that I thought was interesting that Lisa actually found, I find it interesting. Maybe I'll let you explain it since it was your find. How, like, the process best friends in Austin, Texas. Very close to.
Yeah,
Are you talking to me?
there's.
No, Lisa, I want Lisa to
Okay.
explain it, and then I want you guys to actually let me know, like, because of this reason, I'm wondering if there's any ties to the Process Church and other places. I just didn't want to steal Lisa's thunder with this.
No, not at all. I think the one time, William, remember when I sent you some information, I kind of took a little walk trip or whatever, and I went to that area, that dam area, and then kind of walked it and saw that whole area is very industrial, where they had dumped a good portion of the bodies by Longhorn Dam. And so I took to a map or whatever, and I looked up, surrounding businesses and what have you. And I believe there was a body that had been found not soon after, I think like in a trash can or something like that had been dumped, not in the water, but just like rando, just dumped. And as I was looking, I found Austin, I believe, Austin Pets Alive, and then Austin Animal Center or something like that. And so I kind of went over there and I drove through there to see, is this still there? What have you? And then I think it was one time I was watching one of Dana's lives and she was talking about best friends, just in general, that they're all over. So I Googled, best friends Austin, and it pulled up Austin Pets Alive, Austin Animal. And I was like, wait, what? So they are hiding, lack of a better word, hiding behind the name Austin Animal Center or Austin Pets Alive. Because when you go to the website, when you type in Best Friend Animal Society, Austin, Texas, it pulls up Austin Pets Alive or Austin Animal Center. And so I passed by again, and you walk in and you see the little logos, whatever, and what have you. And it's right by the river.
The
and
site itself even said,
yeah. Yeah. And what's interesting as well is that there's an OTO lodge kind of not too far from there as well. And I think, Nick, you found Temple of Set that's permanently closed somewhere as an offshoot in that whole area.
Lions Club, a Rotary Club, and there's Shriners all in that area.
And if you follow the river back up, like up towards UT, the campus, it kind of, you see a bunch of belief centers. You see Scientology, you see Mason lodges, you see the actual lodges that, forgive me, Black people attend versus the Mason lodges. I don't remember the name. They give it a specific,
something like
that. Something like that. It's like
specific, or something like that.
Mm-hmm. And then you follow the river back up, and it's just, littered with all kinds of belief centers, Muslim, Catholic, the whole bit. It's just weird. And it's like, well, maybe they just want riverfront property, but why are all the bodies being dumped right there too? So
suspicious, very suspicious.
Extremely.
And didn't that girl, Ashlyn Bell, kind of the cat thing kind of reminded me of the Best Friends insignia too?
It did. Very much so. Very much so.
The mask. The mask.
Oh, I didn't even think of that.
And there is a lot of
smiley face, yeah.
There's a lot of that in Austin. You kind of go around town and you see a lot of furries, what they call them. And I believe there was an incident where students were claiming that they were cats and they had to put in kitty litters in public school system. So
that's right. Yeah, it's getting crazy, really crazy. Yeah, can you move forward? I think there's another one that's really good. That one of these slides where they basically say, in the development, many gender medicine victims are filled with regret they were sterilized. Nobody knows this more than the doctors who mistreated them. At the times, their response to regret appears callous. I follow a lot of these kids, so they're following the kids. This is acknowledgement that these guys are following their own kids. So who's following Scarlett Blake, right? Oh, the dog isn't doing it. Go back there. They're saying that they're taken out of the gene pool, right? So they're saying the dog isn't your companion because they don't have kids. And they're like, no, I just found this wonderful partner. Now we want kids. So, it doesn't surprise me. So they know the consequences of their actions. These are some of the most unethical pieces of trash in creation. Sorry. Horrible people. So their sexual function's gone. It's just a big fat mess. It's so evil. When you look through them. Then a patient who becomes dangerous. Transition to kill. I had a patient who became dangerous, threatening our care team post-op, which ultimately ended in a restraining order. Patient had undiagnosed mood disorders that did not surface till post-op. Well, that's what they say. Right? After which he traveled around the country. Traveled around the country to find other surgeons to provide care. Chilling story. Yeah. So is Fang Ji Wang one of these types? Transition to kill. Yeah. So it's a really good thread. People should check out Michael Schellenberger. All of his journalism is really first rate, but it's actually
pretty detailed.
Yeah, he's actually a real journalist. It's like the thing is he's independent, so he's not working for. Oh yeah, here's another one. This is the psychological angle, right? They had alters who were both male and female gender. It was imperative to get the alters to be affected. Talking about alters, this is like splitting the consciousness, right?
Yeah,
incredible. Totally ties into this whole theme.
So all the alters had to give consent. It said in that last one. Oh wow, that's wild.
Yeah. It's like altars being sacrificed on the altar.
Right, well said. And it's like what Scarlett Blake said to the judge or to the thing, like, I am dissociative. I'm a cat. This is a kicker. This is my favorite one of the slides. If an individual patient feels they made a mistake, be careful to not letting that change the way others receive care. So they're clearly saying things that went wrong, do not tell the new patients.
Yep.
This is in their thing. That's so sick. These people should be sued out of existence. I hope they all get sued. It'll be good. So if there's a really good personal injury attorney out there, guys, you can make a career out of all these horror show surgeries, because no jury would ever sympathize with these pieces of trash ever in a jury. I forgot what this one was. I don't know why I put this slide in here. Oh, this is somebody sent something to. This is like a elite person who sent something to Ofcom. It says Scarlett Blake is a male, considers himself alternatively a woman and a cat. He meowed at his trial. Gender identity is a matter of political controversy. Yeah. Oh, she was just saying that he's not a female.
It's hard not to laugh at meowing at the trial comments.
Yeah, yes.
I don't.
It's clown world, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a response to somebody, I think, complaining to the BBC. And they're like, why do you keep talking a woman? Scarlett Blake was tried as a woman, and the pronoun she was used throughout. We greatly value audience feedback. We generally use the term and pronoun preferred by the person in question unless there are editorial reasons not to do so. There's great editorial reasons, because that's a dude who wants to become a woman but isn't a woman. She's not transitioned all the way. Still has male genitalia, is my understanding. And this is just another story of like a transgender. This guy looks like a man. If I saw that dude come, I would misgender him in a nanosecond. I'd be like, dude, that is those eyes. There's no woman with those predatory, angry eyes, man.
Yeah, not with that brow ridge.
The brow ridge too, right? Like these are men.
Ramsey, could you throw out a trial if they're not using proper names?
I don't think
or
so.
legal names.
But there's always appeals processes. So maybe this will get appealed or something. But I'm sure that this will pop up. I haven't seen it in the U.S. yet, but I bet it will. I bet it'll pop up like pronouns and stuff. Is that the end of it? Did I already go through everything? I guess so.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, that
That
was
was
it.
it. Those are all
Awesome.
the slides.
Thank you. That was great.
Yeah. So anyway, it
Some
all
wild
kind of
stuff.
ties together, and hopefully Riley Strain will be found alive and safe and end up like Christian Pugh out of Austin, where he was drugged and asleep at some field. But I think it doesn't look good
There's a body of water over there too, right?
in Austin or in.
Oh no, I'm sorry. You know what? I'm going back to the other one. Yeah, Nashville. Sorry.
Yeah, Nashville. I think.
It's right by the river. I mean, the downtown
it is
bar
by the
area is
river.
right
Yeah,
there.
It goes
I'm
by the
like-
Cumberland.
Yeah.
Goes by the Cumberland.
I was
But
waiting
I
here.
mean, to my experience from looking at these cases, William, it seems like the more the media attention is going on, like you want to believe that that's going to be helpful to finding the victim and resolving this matter. But it doesn't seem to indicate that. And based on previous examples, what it seems to indicate from that kind of onslaught of media attention is they're going to release the victim's body's going to be located sooner rather than later. I think that's the only thing that I've kind of noticed when these disappearances, that there's greater the media attention, the less amount of time that transpires before the victim's located, versus, like somebody like Dakota James, who was gone for 42 days or whatever,
40 almost.
While there was media attention, it wasn't anywhere near the kind of media attention that this Riley Strain is seeing. And I think those instances where there is more media attention, you want to believe that it's going to help. All really it's going to do is expedite the victim being dumped in a body of water. I think is what I've noticed.
I think you're right. This is probably
it's the sad part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think that this is the most media attention, maybe next to Chicago or Austin cases, but this is the one that's very different.
Yeah.
Like I was just rando streaming yesterday. I didn't even notify anything, and there was like 750 people listening.
That's
that
crazy.
fast, and
That's
there were
awesome.
somebody tagged Massey. I guess Tennessee's rep, Thomas Massey.
Yeah,
Members
Kentucky.
of Congress. Yeah, Kentucky.
Yep.
Oh, it
Yep.
must be
Nearby, just north of there. Yeah.
But
it
so-
would be interesting to see a politician getting involved in something like this within these SFK victims, or likely SFK victims, because that's one element that if you're looking for public attention, no politicians ever getting behind any of these things with these disappearances. So that would be interesting to see, because this is already breaking new grounds. It seems with the way folks are reacting to Riley Strain. It'd be interesting to see some more political involvement in the search for or the aftermath of actually determining this wasn't an accident. They definitely investigate the bartenders and staff, and there's been numerous instances, even in the original cases out of La Crosse, which seem to indicate that folks within the bars, or folks, employees of the bar, or bands that were playing at the bar, that seem to indicate that they were involved in a number of cases.
It's even another situation with some areas. Like I don't know if this would happen. It could quite be also in Nashville, but like even in Austin, Texas, it's to it's to the point to where I guess maybe just lack of work sometimes, that like if they need a bartender, they'll pretty much like put up a post and they just get a rando in who has like, I guess, the license to bartend, and supposedly you got experience, go at it. So it's like you could even have people slipping in who are like even on, they're just getting paid cash for that night.
Right.
They're not even actually on.
Right. Barbacks. Sometimes barbacks are like super mercenary, right?
Right.
They just like, yeah, I need a barback tonight. Can you make it? Sure. How much you paying me cash?
Shift here and there.
So it could be something like that. But it makes me think of Tommy Booth too, out of Philadelphia. If you remember that case.
Oh yeah,
that was the one where the guy was playing with the smiley face T-shirt, the band. And he said, I'm really sketched out about the people I know. And then he's found just like this guy, Jorge Carreño, in like 8 inches of water or something like that, like face down. Like that's one of the more important SFK cases yet.
Yeah, and that was right by the bar too. Like Booth wasn't far, like 200 feet from the bar.
Yeah, you could see it from the back of the bar. You could see where he was found. Obviously, he was kept somewhere and magically appeared. Probably just like, I mean, I'd be interested to see if they do place his body, where they'll place a Riley Strain, like where they'll try to whether it'll be totally to mock or show power over the police and the people, or whether they'll drive him down 50 miles. And I mean, a lot of these serial killers, just like this guy, this is another box checked for Scarlet Blake, aka Fang Shi Wong, is going to the site of the crime and taking pictures.
watching. Yeah.
So the guy who's doing Riley Strain, he could be in the chat room right now.
Yeah.
Maybe some of the people, you know, how people think some of the spray painting, you know, might correlate with the smiley face. How do you know that's not done after the crime too? They're going back and revisiting the area.
Right. Good point. Yeah. You know, I mean, I think that's like they say, like serial killers, they get this kind of power trip over it. Like it's like a.
Or is it that they know that they're going to get away with it because it's a syndicate and they know it's all connected throughout the connections or whatever, and they're going to get away with it. And therefore the brazen, therefore the boldness.
Yeah, who knows?
Mm-hmm.
If you go back, if you look at this case, I always go back to the family murders in Adelaide, and only one guy got popped. It was Spencer Bevan von Einem, but it was a network. They were doing all kinds. They were abducting boys. There were all kinds of like teenage rapes that were never busted, and then there were murders too. But the way that the family murders were kind of viewed by the media was just the murders. So they didn't see the larger environment of the other kind of drug. And there were tons of drugs and raping and being held for a while. So what they should do is look at what other kind of crimes fit this MO without the deaths. So who's been drugged and who's male, who's been drugged and what other parts. So they need to look at this in context. If I was a cop or law enforcement, I would see what other druggings have taken place in Nashville, whether there were men involved, whether they were sexually abused and don't want to talk about it. That's what I would put out. If I would put an APB, if I was a cop in Nashville, I'd say, has anybody been drugged in Nashville? Any men who don't feel comfortable talking about it, who had a terrible experience, come into the police for an anonymous chat or call this number and figure out like, oh, somebody else was in that bar 2 weeks ago who didn't die. That's when you're going to start finding a perp. Just like
I think you're onto something there for sure. Yeah.
And don't encourage the families to cremate the bodies.
Yeah, that's well said too.
Isn't there like a common weirdness with that a little bit in some cases where it's like straight to cremation and now you can't even fucking check?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Very weird stuff. Thank you all. I think we can wrap it up here, right?
I think so.
Yeah. Thank you, William, for coming on. I know you normally stick to an hour show. You did almost 2. That's what's
I made it, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
Great stamina.
Yeah, I'm still here too.
Sometimes I peter out in like 90 minutes. I'm done.
Oh no, I get that. Yeah, sure. I already did one earlier too.
Saw that.
JJ, thank you for coming on as well. My favorite garbage can do, like I always say.
Thanks. I appreciate the invite. Yeah, no, it's great. Great conversation, William. I mean,
I
think you're on. I think you're onto something a lot with the UK case. I mean, when you say checking all the boxes, you're not joking there. It's an interesting case to study, especially the psychiatric and mind control potentialities associated.
Yeah,
with
no, it's incredible. It's just unfolding. It's still kind of unfolding in my mind. And it becomes more important in my mind the more I think about this guy. It's all there, man. I swear to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And the biggest red flag is the. Oh no, go ahead.
They need to recognize how important it is. They need to recognize how important this case is for me, as somebody who's been like studying this for so long, 8 years or 9 years. Like this is the case. Fong Shi Wong, Scarlet Blake, fake persona, transgender, angry person, BDSM. Stalking,
industrial
manipulating,
tech,
industrial tech, taking out to the water, taking outside of CCTV. The judge even said he's trying to tell people that Jorge committed suicide. He was seeding that meme.
Yeah.
Right. So like this fake thing, the confusion, the death in early water, the crappy journalism that obfuscates what really happened. The police having much more information that they're willing to divulge to the family and the public.
Huge. Yeah, that's huge.
Much like Patrick McNeil, Dakota James, it's all
basically
there.
Answered any victim.
It's all there.
Yeah. No, and the biggest red flag for me is the lack of identity. The actual identity of this satanic, Nazi trans person in Austin, Texas. That's a big red flag for me. The fact that they just glossed over the actual identity. This is the primary witness in the trial, and just the mere fact that this individual is a satanic Nazi who's involved in these kind of activities, huge. That's good. It's awesome finding. That's some good stuff there, William, for sure. Definitely hits all the boxes.
No,
absolutely.
And why isn't the feds or some like the Texas police looking into this guy, Ashlyn Bell.
Yeah.
Like there's
Yeah.
no public thing. Maybe they are. I don't know, but it seems like that would be a, what do they call it? You know, a perp or something to look into.
It's mind-boggling that it wouldn't be considered.
Right.
It almost speaks to like if they are doing it, you know, or if they tried to look into this individual, it almost speaks to this larger order of things where someone's shutting that down.
Very suspicious. Very suspicious. But anyway, I wish the best of luck to Riley Strand. I hope they find him. But,
absolutely.
I would say, and I put on my last show, it was be on the lookout on the riverbed. So a lot of these police may not be on point, but if you're in Nashville and you see something suspicious, take a picture. If you see weird graffiti or something strange down by the riverbed, you know, do your part as a good citizen and just keep some information where you are at that time, because you never know what you could see. Because I think they're going to try to drop his body, just like you said, JJ, over the weekend, early morning hours, Sunday, Monday. I don't know if Monday's really a holiday, but I think it's St. Patrick's Day is Sunday or Monday.
Sunday.
Sunday.
Yeah. So it's not really a holiday, but Monday morning.
Wouldn't be the first St. Patrick's Day victim, though, right? I mean, just last year in Chicago, Seamus Gray.
Right.
I mean,
right. Exactly.
They like St. Patrick's Day.
You know, it wasn't like, didn't we even have two reoccurring, like, Valentine's Day, too? Like, I don't know if there was a transgender person involved in that, but, like, crimes or killings, too.
Yeah, there was another one, I think, in Wisconsin that was St. Patrick's Day. Yeah, so.
I think there was a Valentine's one. I think in Austin, I think.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for having me, Nick.
Yeah,
and Lisa and JJ, it's great to talk with all of you again. Thank you.
I'll make sure I include all your links in the bottom. I'm not going to go through everybody again, but the links are in the bottom, like I was just saying. And just like real quick as a teaser for some of the, I would definitely like to do this part 2 with this Ramsey, but me, JJ, Lisa, and BD are kind of like in the midst of like working on a Austin / Ohio smiley face killers like deep dive, and that's going to have some really, really, really weird ties and spider webs. So keep an eye out for that. Hopefully within like the next month, part 1 should be coming out soon. So
nice. And if you guys ever want to talk with me about it, I'd be happy.
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
for sure.
Thank you.
Cool.
So everybody, if you're interested in the work, go check out the links on the bottom. JJ's is down there. Williams is down there. You can find Lisa on Twitter and on Instagram. And that is the end of the Occult Rejects. And until the next one, everybody be well. Later.